was elected to the House in 1992 after spending 10 years on the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, so she's got a lot of familiarity with San Mateo County. She's currently chair of the Health Subcommittee, along with many, many other things. And over time, she's authored 41 bills that have been signed into law. A lot of those have been related to health care, which is a passion of hers. She's endorsed in this election by too many people and too many groups to try and list them all. But they do include the State Democratic Party, the County Democratic Party, Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, and many members of Pacifica's very own City Council. So with that very brief introduction, I will turn things over to Representative Eshoo.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you. Good morning, Pacifica Democrats. It's great to be with you. It really is wonderful to be with you. I thought this was going to be a debate, and but it isn't. But I'm just as happy to be here. I really am. I just want to say, a few opening comments, and then take your questions, because I think the conversation is always important to have. So to the Pacifica Democratic Club, since 1949, you have a long and important history. Clubs are very important in organizing party activities. They really are. I remember when Ronald Reagan was elected president, and I said to my father, "Daddy, what are we going to do?" He said, "Organize, organize, organize, clubs, clubs, clubs." I remember that so well. So to all the officers of the club, thank you for your work. These are nonprofit organizations. It takes a lot to keep an organization going. So, I'm not just throwing the date out to mention the date. That says that there has been and continues to be a deep sense of commitment to community, to values that we hold, certainly in terms of our party, and that activism that is really required of citizens. But the club is the nub. So, bravo to you. Bravo to you. I chaired the party. I was the first woman to chair the Democratic Party in San Mateo County. And it was, as it turned out, it was really a baptism of fire, because it was 1978, and a few months after being elected chair of the party, Leo Ryan was killed. And so it was a tumultuous time in terms of the campaign and all of that followed. Of course, Jackie Spear emerged out of that and went on to be elected to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. So I did serve on the board for 10 years. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. That was in 1982. In 1982, it was a countywide election. So I campaigned very hard in Pacifica, and I had a wonderful vote in Pacifica when I ran for the board. And those 10 years in local government, I think really shaped me legislatively. We all think that we feel very strongly that we have something to offer when we run for office. But once you're in, you think, oh my goodness, there's so much more to this than I thought. So those 10 years taught me much. I think my top takeaways were, and still are, that you have to cooperate, you have to be collaborative, and out of that, you not only set a standard for people in the community of how you conduct yourself, but that together, you're only one vote. So you need to get 4 others, just as the council members here know so well. but it's a real victory when the community sees that something is done unanimously. So it was really and in California, counties are powerful. In many states they're not, but in California, boards of supervisors implement all the state and federal laws. So when I went to the Congress, I knew the Clean Air Act inside and out. Why? Because I sat on the regional body, the Air District Board, during my tenure, and on the Bay Commission. So, and I had chaired our hospital board of directors. So we implemented everything related to healthcare in the county. So it was a very rich experience, very rich experience. I remember, as I was campaigning for Congress, and I'd go to the Rotary clubs and the Kiwanis, and at that time, they felt very comfortable asking if I thought a woman could do the job, and and I said, "Watch me." I thought that's the best answer. That's the best answer. So here we are in 2022. We have about 3 weeks left before I think one of the most consequential elections in our nation's history. If you've probably tuned in to the news the last couple of evenings, you have seen film footage that had never been seen before on January 6th. I was there. I will take the memory of that day really to my grave. I think we all will. Yes, I was there, but so was the country, watching what was taking place, the attack on the citadel of our democracy. No one could have ever imagined something like that happening in our country. I'm very proud of Alexandra Pelosi. She is, she's the youngest child of Nancy and Paul Pelosi, and really a celebrated documentary filmmaker. Well, Alexandra, she's married. She has 2 sons who are my godsons, and she had come down from New York, where they live, to tape a peaceful transition of power. Imagine that, yeah. And we see how individuals matter. Everything we do matters. Everything we do matters. So why is it that this woman, after having served 10 years on the Board of Supervisors, 15 terms in Congress, why am I doing this again? Why am I doing this again? In making my decision, and I've always thought it through. In local government, you have the advantage of 4 years. You campaign hard, you work hard, and then you roll your sleeves up. You have 4 years. In the House of Representatives, it's every 2 years. People want to know why that's the case. That's what the framers saw. I think they wanted short-term accountability, 2-year term in the House, longer term accountability, 6 years for the Senate, and in between 4 years for the presidency. So every 2 years we're up, and I've always thought it through. I've never been on automatic pilot. Number one is our democracy. We know that our democracy was, and when you see the film footage, that it was hanging by a thread. Hanging by a thread. So I think every single one of us has a responsibility to rise up, to do the right thing in this season. I'm proud of my record in the House. Mary Ann said that I've been involved in healthcare from the time I was on the Board of Supervisors. We can talk about, I don't want to go through my legislative record because it takes too much time, but if you want to ask about it, I'd be happy to. What I'm proudest of, and my opponent says I've only renamed 2 post offices. We have very high standards here. If Anna Eshoo had only renamed 2 post offices during my tenure, I would have been thrown out of office, because people have much higher expectations and standards, and we who are elected by the people have to meet those standards. We have to meet those standards and go beyond them as well. At least that's what I try to do. So what I'm proud of is that over 50 bills of mine and bills that were amendments have been signed into law by every president that I've served with, Republican and Democrat. And that's for my constituents. That's for my constituents. You know that redistricting has taken place, and so now I get to represent the entire coast side, from Pacifica all the way down to the Santa Cruz County line. And I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to it. And I know that there are needs in every community, but every community is unique. That no 2 communities are exactly the same. Each one has their own sense of pride, their own history, their own geography, their own needs. And again, I pride myself with working closely with communities, and don't make any assumptions that just because Pescadero has one need, that it's the same up and down the coast side or in the other towns and cities that I look forward to representing. So this every 2 years, truth be known, we go out and say, this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. How many times have you all heard that? This one truly is. This one, they always are. They always are. But I just, I hope and I pray that we can retain our majority in the House, not just for our party, not just for bragging rights, but for, if we do, I think that that we can change the course of American history. And I say that, it's a lovely set of words, but they have great import. I believe that if we can retain our majority and put the changes that need to be made into, that they're codified. For example, Roe. Incidentally, but very importantly, I think the Democratic women of the House were prescient, because last November we put Roe on the floor of the House and codified it. That's before any of the actions of the sad actions of the Supreme Court, which has added, I think, a whole nother layer of division and chaos and fear and anger across the country. So a Democratic majority will codify not only Roe, but the needed changes to the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court really, they tore the heart out of that. So these changes are, I think, really absolutely essential to strengthen our democracy. That is our responsibility in our day and time. This isn't something that we can say, well, you know what, it's so tough, we're passing on this. No generation of Americans have ever done that. No generation. No matter how tough the challenges have been, we have, the American people have met those challenges. And when we haven't, it's been injurious to the country and to the people of our country. So I said I was going to be brief. You give a politician the microphone, right? But it really is a pleasure and an honor to be with you. I never take voters for granted. We're working hard. We should. I'm happy to. I think that competition is really very important. I don't resent that. I would just say, without my opponent here, I'm not going to go into, all that's going on. But, we're living through an era where experience is mocked, and where disinformation, misinformation, and lies have just become part of day-to-day everything. And this is damaging our democracy. Now, I'm a big girl. Throw a punch, take a punch. Even the Republicans say, be careful with Anna. Just be careful, be careful. And I can debate the hell out of them, but and I do. But that to me is what's disappointing. So, but we have 3 weeks to go. I'm so grateful for the beautiful support of this entire city council. I couldn't mean that more. You're the wind beneath my sails, and I'm better for it. And I couldn't mean that more. And how many people have been so welcoming into their homes and their backyards and their decks and the parade, and that it really is wonderful. And I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful for you. So let's take some questions. And
we have a few questions here that were submitted in
sure,
advance.
Whatever you'd like. Okay.
Let me just start with those, and then
sure.
we'll move
and
on to.
Exactly.
One of those is that there's a possibility that the House will be taken by the Republicans, much as we would hate for that to happen. Kevin McCarthy has threatened to cut Democrats out of the decision-making as much as possible, including by removing committee memberships. How will you successfully work in this environment should that happen?
Well, for the majority of the years that I've served in the House of Representatives, I've served in the minority. So that's not something that I don't know how to do. And we've had some really tough, going back to Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich has been gone for a long time, but the toxicity that he injected into the House of Representatives is still there. It's still there. I maintain it's still there. And for those that served with him, they say the same thing. So it's, in the House, let me put it this way. If you're going to serve in the minority, be in the Senate. They have, I say this in terms of structure, because they have, there are only 100 of them, and they have a lot more power in the minority. In the House, because there are 435, it is the majority really rules. The majority really rules. They control all the mechanisms, the parliamentary mechanisms, everything. Having said that, I think that the Republican agenda, at least what they are talking about doing, if they do take over and are the majority, is an agenda that the American people don't support. So it's up to the minority to make those points to the American people, to debate that, to bring it forward. And the press and the media don't ever carry anything that's good that's come out of the Congress that's bipartisan. You never read about that. You just don't see it, and you don't hear it. They cover controversy. They love controversy. We had 4 Democrats that were for defunding the police. Now the Republicans say every single Democrat is for that, and the sky's caving in, and the Democrats are for crime. That is nonsense. It's 4 members, but you see how they like to cover controversy. So, no, I do not want to be. I do not want to be in the minority. Not for my sake, for the people I represent, and and a nation that really deserves, a democracy is tough. Democracy is tough. The president and others keep speaking about the state of the world right now, that there is a struggle between democratic governments, democracy, and anarchists. Anarchists are, that's far easier. It's far easier. They throw a few crumbs to the people, and then they control everything at the top with their buddies. They own the industries. They scrape off the money. They do whatever they want to do. In a democracy, the first three words of our Constitution: we, the people. So in a democracy, you have to produce for the people. You have to produce for people. And so that's our work. So, a minority, being minority, well, with them in the majority. Imagine Kevin McCarthy. You saw the film footage. He was in that room, that bunker that the bicameral, bipartisan leadership was taken to they had to flee the Capitol. They had to flee the Capitol. He was in that room. He knew what was taking place in the Capitol, who had incited that. They went right back to the floor that evening, and over 2/3 of the Republicans in the United States House of Representatives voted against the Electoral College vote.
Wow. Wow. Going along with the theme of elections, the question comes up, why is Louis DeJoy still Postmaster General? Mm-hmm. And will he be planning to disrupt balloting again?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a disaster. He's a disaster. No, he really is. I don't know about you, but when I saw the film footage of United States Post Office boxes loaded and like pieces of junk and thrown in the back of those trucks, I have to tell you, I burst out crying when I saw it. I thought, what are we coming to? Now, what most people don't know is that the board, the overseers of the postal system, they are appointed by the president, but they let me get this straight. I'm distracted because my phone is ringing. We have calls from candidates all over the country calling for help. So you want to just grab it and shut it off? Yeah. It's not the worst ring in the world, but it's still, it's jarring. At any rate, he has to serve out his term before the President of the United States can fill that position. So he's on his way out. He's on his way out. He has done horrible, horrible things. No, because the board is deadlocked, 2-2. From the see, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it so slow to get that other position filled?
You know, I don't know. I have to tell you, I don't know. But I know that the board is deadlocked. His time is, it may be up right now. I know that a few months ago he didn't have very much longer to go. And we've had a knockdown, drag-out battle with him because there's so many of the postal delivery trucks that are, well, they're ancient. They're ancient, and that fleet has to be completely replaced. And he was ordering the same old, where, you know, we in the Congress said these need to be all electric vehicles. So the Congress has won out on that. But it's because of the Democrats. It's because of the Democrats, yeah.
Plus, he's personally profiting.
Oh, yes, yeah. No, these are bad people. They're bad people. I'm sorry to say that, but they're bad. I don't think they not all of them. But we can say, as we're talking about these individuals, I don't think he has a clue as to what the two words public interest means. See? Yeah. What public interest means. Yeah. There's a public interest. That there's a really, I think it's a sacred trust. You have to work to protect that with everything that you do. Everything. There's no such thing as something, in my view, that's small. It's all important. The words that I write in legislation, if they're signed into law, those words walk into people's lives. Every word does. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'd like to open it up to the floor for
Sure.
questions now.
Sure.
We might need to hand you a mic just because we're doing the broadcast and they can't hear you. But Connie.
Hi, Sue. How you doing? Good.
I don't want this to sound self-serving, but Jimmy Pineda and
Panetta?
Mike Pineda and
Panetta,
Mike
uh-huh.
Kelly together put forward a bill to change the capital gains because it hasn't been raised in forever,
Uh-huh.
and to a 500 deduction for single people and $1 million for joint sellers.
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of older people who can't sell their houses because of the massive capital gains. Are you in favor of his bill?
Well, not having read it,
Yeah.
I have a bad habit. I'm not dodging anything, but I have a bad habit. I read everything. You really have to read them. But on the surface of it, what you say, I think that would help an awful lot of people. In some of my visits to Pacifica, people have, when we had the nice coffee with Jerry Hill, there was more than one person that raised this issue with me. Yeah, absolutely. Years ago, I promoted a policy in the Congress on this very issue. And you know what? My colleagues were not very receptive to it. And you know what? We got hammered on it in the subsequent House elections. And the leadership said to me at that time, Dick Gephardt said, we should have listened to you, Anna. We should have listened to you. So, our tax code is quite a motivator. It really is quite a motivator. We have home ownership in the country, really, that rests on the policy of the deductibility of mortgage interest. So, when you track these policies and, how many people have been able to take advantage of that, you examine the outcomes. You always have to examine the equities, because you can put things in the tax code that, in plain English, screws the average American, but favors the, 1% or less than 1% of the American people. So I'm not one that takes the middle class for granted. I'm not one that takes that for granted. I think in the last several years, the middle class has been hammered in many ways. So it sounds like a very good policy. I don't think it's unfair, and I think it's warranted. I don't know. You know what? You know how I find out about most policies, which is. It always says something to me. I hear it from constituents. They will raise it with me. Now, there are between 20 and 25,000 bills that are introduced in each 2-year session of Congress. So, I don't memorize even the numbers of my bills. But it's up to each member to promote their legislation, you see. And so they haven't gotten anything to me on it, but now you've told me I'm on it. Okay. Any bill that is not taken up in a 2-year session dies with sine die, and has to be reintroduced in a new Congress. So I'm sure that they will.
Other questions?
I saw a flyer here, Marty has the mic.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, Anna. I'm Marty Anaya, Pacific Coast TV, and we're recording this morning. We're the Community Media Center
Yes.
for the Coast Side,
Uh-huh.
as you know, and good to see you at Fog Fest. That was a lot of fun. We're also at Pumpkin Fest today, so if I dip out, you'll know
No,
why.
you're excused. I'm not getting on 92
No,
today.
it's. It'll take me only about 5. It'll be over by the time I get there. But you're one of the co-authors of the Save Community Media Act.
Yes.
And the Save Community Media Act, I think, should probably be called the Save City Finances Act, because what it does specifically is protect those 5% row fees, the right-of-way fees for cities who deal with cable
Right.
companies. So I was wondering if you could expound on that a little bit, because obviously not only do we want to protect cities for giving those rights of ways to big cable entities like AT&T and Comcast, but can you tell us a little bit about how that bill goes about doing that?
Well, thank you for what you do, number one. I feel very strongly about community broadcasting. I feel very, very strongly about it. And many years ago, I thought, I approached it as, an important activity taking place in the community. It's good for people. They can tune in. I think we're in a different time frame now. So many newspapers have folded. It's the big guys that dominate. That's probably the best way to put it. It's the big guys that dominate. So how do people receive information? And so I think that the local programming is so important, It's more important now than it ever has been before. But I've been on this for a long, long time, and I value that local programming, and I think, again, for our democracy, how important it is. So I'm not giving up on it. I have fought the big guys. The work that we do in the Congress is done in committees. It's done in committees. And so I'm the very first woman in the history of our country to chair the health subcommittee. So it takes a long time for the Congress to catch on. I mean, isn't that something? I mean, it's hard for me to believe. But the other subcommittee that I serve on is communications and technology. Communications and technology, and that's where this policy rests. And we've got good co-sponsorship on it, but of course the big guys fight this. They really fight it. The AT&T, Verizon, the big ones, they all talk big about competition, but if they see competition from 1,000 miles away, they'll squash it like a bug.
That's so true.
They really will.
Yep.
And I'm on the other side of that. And then when their people come in to meet with me, they say, can't you just, be with us on something? I said, well, bring me something good, and then maybe I can support it. But you know how I view your activity. So I think it's a nonpartisan issue. I think it's a nonpartisan issue. And I have found that when I've gone to Republicans to get them to co-sponsor the legislation, because they too have, community broadcasting. So we just have to stay on it. I'll reintroduce it in the next Congress. I'm there. I'll reintroduce it, and I'll always have your back. Very important. Thank you.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that the number one user of community media interests are churches. And the number one sponsor of the churches are the Republican Party. So,
Very good.
We have another question? Carolyn,
Did you?
Yes, I saw a mailer from your opponent, and he mentioned that he was not in favor, not in supporting ACO organizations under Medicare, and you were, and I wanted to know what caused you to.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you're asking, and I'm more than happy to respond. What my opponent has put out is, it's not just misinformation and disinformation, it's a lie. It's a lie. I do not take a back seat to anyone in the entire Congress, former and present, on defending, protecting Medicare. No one can ever find a vote where I have done anything less than that. And Social Security as well. And Social Security as well. Now, he has pulled a thread out of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, accountable care organizations, ACO REACH, and all of those letters stand for something. In the federal government, you've got all these acronyms and whatever, but that's what it is. Now, you know that it was the Democrats that put the Affordable Care Act into place. The Republicans went to the Supreme Court on it, and we defended it. It was found absolutely constitutional, and those attacks across the country were met with people defending it because they had become enrolled in, insured through the ACA, and they were not going to have it taken away from them. It was really a sight to behold over those months, how many cycles ago. So this is something that's in the Affordable Care Act, and what the ACO represents is there is not guaranteed quality that comes with fee-for-service in Medicare. We know that. I mean, I've experienced it. I experienced it with my own parents. I hear it from constituents. I've heard about it from constituents. And during the Trump administration, they came up with a proposal that was horrible relative to standing up ACOs in the country. I didn't support that, and it never went anywhere. Well, they never got anything done anyway. You know, they were for a wall, and you know, every week was infrastructure week, except there wasn't a pathway that was tarred over or ruts in any road taken care of in the country. Now, what the Biden administration has done, they had an early proposal, but they always have to be put out for commentary. There was a lot of commentary about how specifically an ACO would function. They went back to the drawing boards again. I think that they've done a good job with it. So this is something that's part of the Affordable Care Act. And the purpose of establishing these accountable care organizations is to put quality of care over quantity of care. And that's a very, very important principle for people. And I support that. So what has he done? My opponent, he's put out to people. I mean, it really is, I don't know. My mother used to say, people say more about themselves than anyone else can ever say about them. So she was a very wise woman. And I saw firsthand what Medicare meant to my mother and father. They carried that card in their wallets. It's as if they had a suit of armor, and they were so proud of it, and their Social Security cards. I'm their daughter. I mean, for anyone to even suggest that I would privatize Medicare, oh my God. But it frightens people. I mean, if they don't know me and my record, it scares them. And legitimately so, scaring them. Legitimate to be scared, not legitimate that Anna Eshu would ever do that. So thank you for asking the question.
Carolyn, do you want to give the mic back to some people?
Whoever wants it.
Mary.
Hi, Anna.
Mary.
For
Good.
starters, I
It's
just
great to
think
see
it's
you.
really important for our community to understand that you are already working for us. And you have been. For months now, you have been really focused on your relationship building here and guiding us. And so thank you. Thank you for that. And I also had the opportunity to witness your colleagues show you so much respect. And so when we have strong women in leadership, that can guide us along the way. It's just really important and really important to me personally. So thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, so Pacifica has to deal with the Coastal Commission, California Coastal Commission. What are your ideas about that, and how can you help us?
Well, I think it's important for us to sit down and talk about what you're dealing with so that I know firsthand what the case is and then go from there. We're losing Carol Groom. She's retiring from the Board of Supervisors, and she's had a seat on the Coastal Commission. So let's see who is going to be appointed. I'll always work with you and give you my best advice, and where it's appropriate for me to lean in with the Coastal Commission on behalf of the city, I'll be right there for you. Yeah.
Well, I know we certainly would appreciate that. And then we look forward to sharing all of the cases that we
Yes.
have with the Coastal
I think
Commission
the
right
city,
now.
The infrastructure bill that this president signed into law is massive. It's massive. We worked so hard on that. This is the single largest investment in our nation's history in terms of investment in infrastructure. And I raise it because there are many opportunities for the city in that. Certainly the seawall and others. You have a wonderful city manager. I've worked closely with him in his previous position as city manager of Mountain View. And so he really, I think, outstanding. We're very fond of him in my office, and so I look forward to working with him, on the, the city has to become poised to secure funds for what you need. But we will work very closely with you on that, give you help and guidance, and whatever grant monies you apply for, I always back up. And I'm sure Jackie did the same thing. It's sad to lose Jackie, isn't it? Yeah. Well, she has more than made her mark. She's an extraordinary woman. We've been friends. Jackie was elected to the board in 80, myself in 82. So, for both personally and publicly, we have been together for a long time. She's really remarkable. But we'll work closely with you, not only on the Coastal Commission, but on those other issues. Mm-hmm.
Looks like Jim Helper for a question. Mary, if you could give him the mic.
It's okay. I'll go after Jim.
Okay. I also want to thank you for changing my life, and you don't probably remember this, but my wife and I attended an event at your home and was honored to meet Hillary Clinton, and thank you very much for doing that many years ago.
Yeah.
My question, though, is simple. I know that you and the Congress writes the budget for the year, and you haggle it out, and you put it in stone, and this is what we're going to spend. Great. And then along comes a disaster, a fire, a flood, a war in Ukraine, or something else. And a government says, oh, we'll help with that. And the government agrees to spend money on this new item, which is worthwhile. But where does that money come from if it's not in the budget? Or is it in the budget? Could you just explain that a little bit?
That's a great
I don't
question. They're called emergency supplementals, and we have great debates over this. Great debates over this. Right now, the Republicans have thrown the sand in the gears for an additional supplemental appropriation for the new booster. I don't get it. I mean, how anyone? I mean, this is for the well-being of the American people. But so there are emergency supplementals. Every appropriation request that has come from the administration, in the case of the requests of Ukraine, in their struggle to defend their democracy, is brought up on the floor of the House. Now, some of these items are really charged to go to our debt, but there are all the other bills that we do. And it's so interesting to me how the Democrats have been tagged with big spenders, and the debt is all due to Democrats, freewheeling, big spending Democrats. It actually, and the record shows this, the opposite. It is the opposite. We go in, we adhere to what we call pay-go. Democrats put that policy into place at least a couple of decades ago, but it's been during my tenure. Now, what does that mean? I do a bill, and it's policy. But there's also money that has to be attached to it to implement the policy. I have to designate in my legislation where that money is going to come from. And that's part of the bill when it's taken to the floor of the House. So we have adhered to pay-go. The Republicans have not. They have not. All of the massive tax cuts during the Trump administration, all charged to the national debt. The infrastructure bill, I just said, $1.4 trillion, and this is over a period of 10 years, paid for. The Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA that we just passed, completely paid for. Completely paid for. So we don't get the credit that we deserve. But the emergency supplementals are, some of them have a designation in terms of pay for, many of them don't. They're emergencies, they have to be funded. They have to be funded. We can't say to the people of Florida, when I think of Florida and that DeSantis, it just makes me wild. I mean, imagine someone using their power as governor to put human beings on a plane, lie to them. We're going to send you to a place where you're going to have jobs and opportunity and whatever. I think it's a form of human trafficking myself. But I mean, when you think, I was taught that we all have a spark of divinity in us, that we're all God's children. And to do that to those people, I just think is unconscionable. It's so deeply troubling to me. But to get back to your question, that's the answer. I hope I've answered you. In fact, in one of my debates with the Republicans at my committee, at the Energy and Commerce Committee, whatever the policy was, and oh my God, they were going on and on and on about the money and the whatever. And I listened and listened and listened, because we take turns. The chairman will call on a Democrat, then a Republican, then a Democrat. And so finally I'd had it. And I said something along the following lines. I had a lot more detail to it, but I said, I described what has taken place over the years that I've been in the Congress. And I said, the Democrats come in, we're responsible. We have to clean up behind the elephant. And then And then you guys come in, and I said, and when we do that cleanup, people in our own base don't like it. So we're thrown out of the majority, and then you guys come in and you keep charging everything to the national debt, creating more debt with your massive tax cuts for the top 1% of the people, and then we come in again and have to clean up behind the elephant. So anyway, I just share some snippets with you from the committee. Yeah. And we have had, by the way, a lot of emergency supplementals, and you know, the horrible things that have taken place in states, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the floods, is really jaw-dropping, and that's why the policy that we put in place in the Inflation Reduction Act, 1/3 of that entire bill is all directed toward climate change. All directed toward climate change. Now, they say if they come in that they're going to wipe all of that out. But there's never been that commitment of dollars. It's not just a commitment, it's the legislation to address it. And it's worth that kind of investment, because look at the money we're having to spend. And you know, I said years ago to my Republican colleagues, as they were railing against anything to address climate change, I said, you know what? I'll see you on the floor. I'll see you on the floor when your state is subjected to what the ravages of climate change, because there are such huge costs associated with it. So here we are, the Democrats addressing that. I'm proud that we put that massive policy in place. And it is, you know, I mean, for the future of the country, reducing energy costs and moving to what's green and not, 40% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. That's just 5 minutes away. So, I mean, imagine just that as an accomplishment. So thanks for asking the question. You can tell I always like to add other things to it in the answer. Squeeze as much in as possible here.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask a little bit on the two topics that you're just bringing up. When Mary asked about infrastructure, really is the answer.
Exactly.
And the infrastructure bill, but also with the climate issues, you know, we need to take care of immediate infrastructure issues, and our plans are in place to be able to do those things that we need now. Stormwater, roads, these kinds of things immediately.
That's all in the infrastructure bill.
And so
law, I should
how
say.
we look forward to working with your staff on exactly how we access those funds and move forward through those processes. And we need to look ahead. And that's why I'm encouraged about the 10 years for expenditure and the continued planning. We're appreciating so much your work already on our behalf with Jackie, with Army Corps, but we need to look ahead.
Absolutely.
And as you know, working with BCDC, well, coastal commissions are BCDC, and we're dealing with coastal erosion and bluff erosion and infrastructure that simply is going to need to be moved at some point.
The new law provides for the present needs as well. It's not all long term. And in the Bay Area, there is a guarantee of $4.6 billion. That doesn't include any of the grants for specific other projects that cities and towns have. So, we've got to get the list ready. And apply because it's there. It's there. It really is. And you know, this is example, and maybe many of you don't access it, don't have to. Caltrain. Caltrain is, something that I have. You know, you all heard about the the high-speed rail authority. And so they came down the peninsula, and every city in the peninsula was suing the high-speed rail authority. I mean, I had town hall meetings. There were like over 1,000 people that were coming. They were up in arms because the high-speed rail authority was going to tear up each city and town, carry the train on 60-foot elevations. I mean, it was a horror show. It was a classic case of how not to do something. And I'd had it with them. Now, Samtrans was with them for that plan. I called Samtrans and I said, look, fellas, this is not working. This is a very bad plan. Every city is up in arms, and they should be. I know why you have a ring in your nose with the high-speed rail authority, because you want the money. But we have to do a different plan. So I proposed something completely different, and that was that Caltrain should be our high-speed rail. Caltrain. These tracks have been there since Abraham Lincoln's presidency. And I thought it was very fitting that another young man from Illinois who became president, Barack Obama, that I secured the support from the administration to electrify Caltrain. And now we have done that. And now we have the money in the infrastructure law to for the grade separations. You see, no city has enough money for these things. These are expensive. Infrastructure is expensive. So I've got your back. I'll have your back. Yeah, we have to work closely to secure the money.
So
one more question?
I'm being notified by the facility that they really need for us to bring this
but
to
let's
a
take
close.
one more. Yeah, so we don't want to leave you out. It's great to see you. I don't want to leave you out.
It's such a joy to have you here today,
Oh,
and thank
it
you
is for me. Thank you.
following through with your commitment to be here, even though we had an abrupt cancellation of your
It's okay.
opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's such a joy, and it's such a joy that you're reinforcing experience is vital. Okay, and it's very needed at this time. And you have organically pulled from such a pool of experience, and you showed that today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Knowledge and seniority.
Right.
Yeah, seniority matters in the Congress.
Right. And I also,
Sometimes it's
really
maddening,
enjoyed
but
our forum, and I want to shout out for Sue and also for Robbie. Okay, they organically are able. They came in to our forum. They were organically able to pull from the experience they have with this community, and they have my wholehearted support as
Isn't
well.
that wonderful? That's a great note to end on. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I'm proud to be a member of the club.
Yes, we're
Thank
glad you
everyone.
are. Just wanted to point out that our next meeting is November 19th with Jackie Spear. So we're looking forward to that. And